Neely Fuller, it's an honor to speak with you. Because of your work and the work of Dr.Frances Cress Welsing, I started a book club, and myself and many other non-white people are on this collective journey of learning about the white mind and how to codify ourselves against racism and white supremacy. But my question for you, Neely Fuller, is do you have any more techniques on protecting one's spirit from the many negative energies that white supremacy creates?
Do I have any what?
Any more techniques or more ways that you are able to protect your spirit and energy from the effects of racism and white supremacy?
Protect your spirit and energy?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the only answer I can give is through what I just said before and what I have consistently been saying. What do you do? What you do is ask questions and get answers to your questions. Because of what? The codified principle. And I'm going to have to keep repeating it. It's not one way to do it. Questions and answers. Why? Because all problems, see, whatever you're talking about, whether you're talking about spiritual problems or whatever, all problems, without exception, are solved through the process of questions and answers. That's not Neely Fuller's philosophy. That's the philosophy of logic. That's mathematics. That's the logic of the entire universe. You can't go to the moon and back, or even get there, or even get halfway there, without what? A whole lot of questions and a whole lot of answers to those questions. And you better get it correct, because you don't get a second chance. All right?
And when talking about racism and white supremacy, the people who refuse to see the truth and reality, should they just be pushed aside and not thought about? And should we just focus on the non-whites who are capable of taking the information and using it?
Oh, wait a minute. Slow down. I might have to go over that question again. Because one thing we have to have, definitely, in the codification is absolute clarity. So the question is what?
So when talking about racism and white supremacy, for the non-white...
Okay, let's get it straight. The first part. When you're talking with someone about racism, white supremacy, now, what's the rest of it?
If that non-white person refuses to accept the truth of racism and white supremacy, should they be should we give our energy to them to try to help them see the reality, or should we not worry about them?
You don't. Okay, first of all, your procedure. When you talk to anybody about anything, the first thing you want to know is, what does the person want to talk about, and do they want to talk about some problem? That's the first question. Do you want to talk to me, or me talking to you? That's anybody that you encounter. You first want to know if the person wants to talk about what you want to talk about. See, it's not a matter of what you want to talk about, according to the code. It's a matter of what the person that you're talking to wants to talk about. Because people usually want to talk about what's on their mind, not what's on your mind. So you have to follow that logic. So usually if you're talking to people, somewhere along the line, that person will start talking about a problem that he or she has. Then you go into the question mode all the way. First question is, what is the problem that you're talking about? You say you have a problem. A person says, I want to talk to you about something, man. I got a problem. Oh, okay. Now we're ready to talk. That's the best time to talk to someone, is when that person tells you that they have a problem, not your problem. You telling them. I mean, usually people, they'll just kind of they may be interested, but they can kind of be laid back about you talking to them about a problem that you have, and definitely don't try to go and open up a conversation to a black person about race. The code says you don't do that. The code says you talk about race once the person lets you know that that's what they want to talk about. So in answer to your question, I think that might get to the heart of what you're saying. You don't ever bring up the race issue to anyone, even though you come in with that on your mind, because you know that is the main problem on the planet Earth. And all problems lead to the race problem. But you don't lead anybody there. That's not the codified procedure. The codified procedures wait for someone to say something about race. Now they open the door, and you walk right in and say, oh, are you talking about a race problem? Okay. What problem do you have with race, racism, or whatever it is you want to say? And then you ask the person. Stay in the question lane. People will take you where they want you to go, and you won't be having arguments, if I understand what your question was. I think a lot of people do ask that question. How do you get it over to black people? I mean, you start talking to them about race, and they'll start arguing with you, and the next thing you know, you're in a shouting match, and it's just a hard job. First of all, you don't approach anybody, white or non-white, talking about racism. You approach a person saying, what problem do you have? If you're going to talk to them at all, and you're talking about solving problems, you don't tell them they have a race problem. You ask them, what problem do they have? And everything else will fall in line. If you're talking to a black person, whatever problem that black person has, it's going to lead to the race problem. That's a guarantee, because that's where all roads lead.
Yeah, I know.
If you're a person of color.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, my brother. And as always, do not be a stranger. Thank you so much. All righty. Everybody, you are now listening to the Counter Racist Code Show with Mr. Neely. This says, can you ask Mr. Neely Fuller what does he think the subconscious thinking of the white supremacists is? Should we understand them as Dr.Frances Cress Welsing has laid out in her works?
Oh, well, you studied Dr. Welsing's work, and I haven't read the ISIS papers, by the way, myself, where all that is explained. Because when I talked to Dr. Welsing all down through the years, I said, I am not going to concentrate so much on history, because we have historians like Dr. Ben, Dr. Chancellor Williams, Dr. John Hendrick Clark. We have historians, and on top of historians, who have done a lot of very meticulous work. So I don't have to retrace their steps. So I will work on not even why white people do what they do, even though that's a very important question, which is what Dr. Welsing said she would work on. And I told Dr. Welsing early on, well, I'm going to work on what to do about it.
Okay.
Because there's a dearth of books on what to do about anything on a day-to-day basis. And that's when I start earnestly concentrating on just that segment. So when people ask me about a lot of history or melanin or things like that, I come up blank. I'm not the person to talk to.
Okay. Was that Brother Ben Yakiman Did you when you mentioned Ben?
Yes, Dr. Ben.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
He's done a lot. I haven't had time to, to read his work, and just like I just said, I haven't had time to read. I hadn't taken the time to read Dr. Welsing's work.
Yes.
And even when I would speak on the same podium with her, I wouldn't know what she's doing until she says it on the mic. And I learn whatever she has to say, just like everybody else is learning. I never talked to her about melanin and whatnot in detail.
Yes, sir. Okay. Let's go